Ho, ho, ho. Happy Christmas Eve, Rush Nation. What's happening? What's good? It's Christmas Eve. We are one day away from the big man gracing our living rooms with his presence. That was a terrible pun. I didn't even know I did it. I'm joined once again by my partner in crime, Ash. Happy Christmas Eve, man. How are you doing after your isolation period?
Happy Christmas Eve. Yeah, I'm doing good. All clear and ready for Christmas now. Nice to be not in isolation over Christmas, which was the main thing.
Did you benefit from the rule change from 10 to 7 days?
I did, yeah. So I should be out. I should have been out tomorrow, but yeah, because I had the two negatives in a row, I was able to go out today, which was good. Well, yesterday actually was the first day I went out.
Did you do anything good? Did you?
No, not really. No, went food shopping
Oh,
quickly.
nice.
Yeah, that's about it really.
What are your plans for Christmas?
Going to my grandparents, and then there's about 6 or 7 of us meeting up in the evening, just for a few drinks and a few board games and stuff like that. So it should be good. How about yourself?
Well, currently awaiting a PCR test for my wife and son. So
Oh no.
yeah, that could. The worst bit about that is it's a 72-hour window apparently, and we haven't heard back yet. So if we don't hear by, like, what technically I'm supposed to stay here until I
Yeah.
hear. Are the elves in the PCR office working Christmas Day? Like, what's the crack with that? I did madness,
Oh,
absolutely
blimey.
madness. So
Yeah, not ideal timing that.
no, no, but hey, it will be what it will be, and they're both okay, so that's the thing that matters at the moment. Ash, we
Yeah,
are
good.
what, a third, nearly halfway into bowl season. At the
Yeah.
start of bowl season, I was very excited about there being football every day. I've decided that 4 games every other day would have been better because I can't keep on top of what's happening. And the news that we're about to go through, I've missed so much of this because of X, Y, and Z. So I'm glad you're here to put this news slate together because I've missed quite a bit of this.
Yeah, it's been a bit of crazy week to be fair. Mainly regarding transfers, but
Yeah, and quite a few people that we mentioned on the last pod about perhaps stepping out of their bowl games and declaring has happened. You know, the people.
mm,
I guess it was fairly obvious. The people we mentioned that weren't going to perhaps play. Most of them have come out and said, "I'm going to be declaring for the draft," and rightly so, in my opinion.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's some that are not that surprising to be fair. So it happens every year. We just sort of have to expect it now.
Yeah, 100%. Before we dive into the news, Tom, I don't really know what Tom's expecting of me, but he sent me his mock draft today. His first mock draft is finished. I assume he wants it out before the games start, perhaps for real in the NFL this Sunday, so the schedule doesn't really change for draft picks, for instance. But yeah, he's got 2 New York Giants picks at 5 and 6, I think, and they are very New York Giants picks. Let's put it that way. So yeah, you'll have to wait to read that one, Rush Nation, when I do get it out. It might even come out Christmas morning as a bit of something to read if you are for some reason reading football articles on Christmas morning. Right, Ash, let's get into the news. Starting off with Texas A&M, they are out of the Gator Bowl against Wake Forest. They've had to pull out of the bowl game due to a huge COVID-19 outbreak and some season-ending injuries, which has left them unfortunately unable to field a team, which is, considering Texas A&M are what, the number one ranked team for this year's recruitment cycle. It's this massive news for them. And then obviously they've reportedly only got 38 scholarship players available and only 13 on defense. So that would basically mean 60 minutes of football for the whole defensive side of the football. So with them not being able to field a team, Rutgers has been announced as the replacement opponents for Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl.
Yeah, big shame for Texas A&M. They've had a good season, and there's a few guys leaving this year that may well have been involved in the bowl game that now won't be. But yeah, bad news for them. I think Rutgers. So Rutgers, I put it on here that they've been announced. They haven't officially been announced. However, they're the team that's been offered and are expected to accept the position. They were the next team up that missed out on a bowl game with their 6-7 record. They had 3 non-conference victories, which has sort of pushed them right to the top of the teams that are not currently competing. this is probably not going to be the last we'll see of teams having to pull out as well, unfortunately, with everything that's going on over in America still. So I expect to see more teams pulling out, and hopefully, like they've done with Rutgers, they've brought in a team that's been able to play in the place of Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've only got to look at what's happening in the NFL with players going down with COVID literally every 10 minutes. My phone is telling me that a player is now on the COVID list. And even just here at home, the amount of people I now know with COVID, like you, I mean, you've had it twice,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And
Yeah, I know.
the amount of people I know, I mean, I'm waiting on results for 2/3 of my family. And the first couple of waves, I didn't know anybody who had it. And now it's as close to me as it could possibly get without me having it, touch wood. So with it being so rife here, is obviously the American trend followed us, and it's just this new variant is everywhere and it's getting everywhere quick. So it's unsurprising, and you're right to say that this won't possibly be the last bowl game that we'll see, with replacements being thrown in. Moving on, we've got former Georgia Tech running back Jahmyr Gibbs has announced his transfer to Alabama. So the rich gets richer. Gibbs spent the last 2 seasons with the Yellow Jackets and was one of the highest rated running backs in the country in 2021. So huge news this for Alabama and their running back room.
Yeah, this is a massive pickup for Bama. Really, he's one of the top running backs in the country. It's gonna be a very good replacement for them. I think obviously they had Brian Robinson Sr. this year, who did a good job. He did a stand-up job for them, but he wasn't an exceptional talent that they've had previous years at running back. And Jahmyr Gibbs coming in, he is an exceptional talent and is a highly rated running back. I think he was one of the top rated in his freshman year, and he had a very solid year with Georgia Tech. So expect big things from him and Bryce Young next year. Definitely, it's a really good transfer for Bama and Gibbs, and not for the rest of the college football community and other programs.
Yeah, look for him to be snapped up early doors in the showdown next year. That is for sure. Former USC quarterback Caden Slovis is staying in school, just not with USC, which was pretty obvious, really, with how things have gone on down there at the quarterback room. Slovis has announced his transfer to Pitt, and he's going to step into the shoes that Kenny Pickett filled. And obviously, we've seen Kenny Pickett has declared for the draft. So this one is, I'm not sure if I think, obviously Kenny Pickett had a career year this year and it was unbelievable for Pitt, but I just don't think Kedon Slovis is as good as Kenny Pickett.
No, I don't think he's as good either. It's an interesting move, to be honest. I think I don't know, because Slovis, up until he got hurt, was having a great year. Not quite on his freshman year, but it was an improvement on the. Well, I'd say it was on par with last year. Again, obviously the COVID hit USC last year, missed a few games. Slovis was injured at times last year as well, and he had a very up and down 2021 before he got hurt. And I agree. I don't think he's not as good as Pickett, but I think it's a good move for him. He's obviously decided that USC that's it for him. Obviously, there's big changes going on there, and whether he already had the conversation with Riley and has realised that he wasn't part of it and has decided to move on. But it's an interesting move. I think it will keep Pitt competitive. I think Slovis is enough to run this offense, but definitely a step down from Pickett.
Another quarterback movement, which I had no idea about, and I messaged you this earlier when I saw the show doc, is that Bo Nix has announced his transfer to Oregon for the 2022 season. Nix, as we mentioned, left Auburn after 3 seasons with 7,251 passing yards, 39 touchdowns. Nix is going to be joining up with his former Auburn OC and quarterback coach, Denny Dillingham, who is the new Oregon OC. They spent 2 years working together, and Nix won the SEC Freshman of the Year when working alongside Dillingham. So he's moving into a team where he's familiar with the coaching staff. However, we talked about, I don't remember his name, but you mentioned Oregon having a 5-star freshman quarterback in that room. Are they not expecting him to take the step up in his second year and start, or is this going to be a fight? Or is Anthony Brown going to declare? What's his story? I'm not quite sure on him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. They You are right. They've got obviously Anthony Brown there, who I'm not sure what he's going to be doing this year, and they've got I can't remember what there is a 5-star quarterback called Ty Thompson, who, as you say, obviously they clearly, well, they want to bring in some competition, or maybe as you say, they don't feel he's ready and they want another player for a year to help with that transition. I think Anthony Brown has in fact gone. I don't. Is he? I assume he's declared for the draft. I'm just having a quick look now, but I know that he is leaving after the bowl game. He's starting. It was announced last week that he'll be starting their bowl game, but I'm assuming that he is draft eligible. Yeah, he must be, because this is his 5th year. So he's clearly, well, he's leaving college. Whether he gets taken in the draft or not remains to be seen. I would be surprised if he does, but we've seen crazier things. So yes, Nix is going to be in a battle with Ty Thompson and a couple of other guys that are still in town as well. And Nix is coming off of a great year and a great career with Auburn. He's had a few up and downs himself, but he is a solid quarterback. I'm surprised he hasn't declared. To be honest with you, he's going into his sophomore, so he would the coming season, so he would have been able to declare a year earlier. Sorry, no, he's going into his senior year, not his sophomore year. So he would have been able to declare this year, but has decided not to. So surprising move, but a good move for him going to Oregon if he can win that starting job over Thompson.
Yeah, and perhaps he sees it as with what we saw of Oregon early in the season, and they beat the Buckeyes, and then sort of a couple of losses to Utah late in the season, sort of finished off their playoff run. But I wonder if he thinks that there's more chance he can get to the playoffs with Oregon than perhaps Auburn, and if he does, because he didn't declare, like you said, then he sees this as his last shot to make a claim for one of the top quarterbacks in the draft class. And yes, this class is weak for quarterbacks, but Nix did have a good year, and perhaps getting to the playoffs or at least winning the Pac-12 would be a big badge for Bo Nix to take with his draft capital. So, yeah, an interesting one that flew well under my radar, and I didn't even see it. And when I thought, wow, it's a shame Jordan isn't here to talk some Pac-12, but we've spent long enough talking about Oregon there. Let's move on. 3 QBs are transferring. Former UCF quarterback Gabriel Dillon. Isn't it Dillon Gabriel?
Yes.
Yeah, you've done me there, Ash, with the reading up. But I picked it up. Former UCF quarterback Dillon Gabriel has announced his transfer to UCLA. The Bruins are expecting DTR, which is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, for those not familiar with the shortened version. They're expecting him to declare for the draft and have made their move early to find his replacement. I'm assuming they know that DTR is going to declare, right? Otherwise, you don't make this move.
Yeah, he's I believe he has to. He's a senior, so he has to leave. This is a great move for UCLA. I'm surprised when I heard that Gabriel was leaving UCF. He's obviously decided to land in UCLA, and as I say, it's a massive get for them. He has had 2 incredible years in his freshman and sophomore year for UCF, and then unfortunately this year, I mean, in 3 games, I think he threw over 800 yards, and again was one of the most highly rated quarterbacks before he got injured, and his season finished. So, yeah, this is a solid pickup for UCLA and Chip Kelly.
Yeah, big time news. Another quarterback, former LSU quarterback Max Johnson, is heading over to Texas A&M Aggies. Johnson has 3 years of eligibility left and joins his brother, tight end Jake Johnson, who's recently committed to the Aggies from the 2022 recruiting class. So Texas A&M go from having nobody in the Gator Bowl to having Max Johnson in their quarterback room.
Yeah, and to be honest, this shouldn't be too surprising. Obviously, both Johnsons, Jake and Max, both left LSU at the same time. And obviously, as you say, Jake Johnson has committed to the Aggies, and shortly followed by his brother Max. And was a good time for him to move. Obviously, the news came out that Miles Brennan is now not leaving USC. Oh God, getting my teams well modelled up. LSU. He is staying. He's withdrawn his transfer portal request, probably because in part of this news, he knows he's going to be the quarterback for at least for the short term in LSU, and yeah, Texas A&M get themselves a capable quarterback there to compete with Haynes King. Obviously, Calzada is in the transfer portal, and let's be honest, didn't do a great job. King was a bit up and down before his injury with A&M, so he's got a battle on his hands now with Johnson heading in, who had a good year with LSU in a year that was very up and down for them as a program. Max Johnson went about his job very well in the relief of Miles Brennan. I think he went 2,800 yards and 27 or 28 touchdowns, and yeah, looked very capable at times in his second year as a college player. So,
and that's all they want over at A&M, right? The way we've seen them play their offense, they had like you mentioned, Calzada wasn't really the guy. Haynes King didn't impress at the start of the season. I mean, it was a quarterback battle right up until week one, and the way they play their football, Max Johnson can slide right in there and be Max Johnson and fit the scheme perfectly. So it is a superb move for them. And I mean, if Jake Johnson gets the starting tight end role, those two could have to be some backyard football link up right there for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it seems to be quarterback news galore, Ash, as we move to Florida, and that's quarterback Emory Jones plans to enter the transfer portal after 4 seasons. Jones intends to play in the Gasparilla Bowl against UCF. However, he is willing to join any school he looks he's willing to join any school as he looks for a place that helps develop me and prepares me for the next level. So that basically smacks to me that he just wants to get a job. He's not bothered where he plays. He just wants somebody to come and get him.
Yeah, he wants to put himself on paper for one last year. Obviously, as we know, this was supposed to be his year as the Florida quarterback. Anthony Richardson had other ideas and of course ate into his work and impressed at times. And now he looks like he's going to be the man in Florida next year. And Jones has got one more year left and a year that he wants to try and prove himself. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks still available, despite the ones that have already announced their transfers in the portal at the moment. I'm going to be very intrigued to see where Jones falls. Cincinnati still need a quarterback for next year. Obviously, I thought it would be Nix. I thought that was a perfect landing spot for him. That's obviously not happened. So there's still, as I say, there's still a lot of quarterbacks out there, but there's still a lot of programs to fill a need as well. So Jones sees that and is obviously making his move. But as you say, he's going to be playing in the Gasparilla Bowl against UCF. Along, I think Richardson's available. I can't remember if he's back from injury or not. But that will be Jones's last game with the Gators.
Peek behind the curtain, Rush Nation. You may have heard us say he's going to be playing in the Gasparilla Bowl. That is because we are recording this technically before that has been played. But as far as you know, it's Christmas Eve. So we'll slide nicely onto some draft declarations. As we mentioned, Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett is going to skip the Peach Bowl against Michigan State and start his preparations for the 2022 draft. Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III will also be skipping the bowl game to focus on the draft. Ash, no surprises here. We called this bluff. I mean, It wasn't as if we were making original comments. These two were going to be definitely out of the Peach Bowl. And I just think for players who have high draft stock, we're not talking about elite quarterback play or top 5 running back Saquon Barkley sort of stuff, but that one extra game where they've got nothing to prove going into it and the chance of injury is just not worth it for these two guys. So in my opinion, I think it's right that whilst we talked about the bowl games being hugely important for the game itself and each team, the players should have sort of they shouldn't be judged if they decide to step out because of declaring for the draft, because it's their future they're playing for. And that one extra game, we've seen it happen. Players go in and play it, they get injured, and their draft stock is hugely hampered, or their career is finished. So, rightly so, Kenny Pickett and Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker will be skipping the bowl game.
Yeah, as we said last week, this was expected, and I think I imagine a lot of people expected it. These two in particular have got nothing left to prove this year. They've had exceptional years and exceptional careers with their programs, and as you say, there's a lot of risk going into a game that they don't have to play. Some choose to do a final showcase before the Senior Bowl or the Combine, the individual program pro days. But it's unsurprising. We're going to see more. We're going to see a lot more, and we're already we've got news of a whole bunch of other players who have declared early, and some of those are going to be skipping their bowl games as well. So it's unsurprising.
Yeah, one of the star running backs of this year's class is Iowa State's Breece Hall. He's going to be skipping the Cheez-It Bowl against Clemson and preparing for the 22 draft. He leaves college as one of the standing running backs, ending his third year with the Cyclones. Just a casual 3,941 yards and 50 rushing touchdowns for Breece Hall. So one of this year's big-time running backs, fantasy targets in your dynasty drafts, is skipping the Cheez-It Bowl. No surprise again, Ash.
No, really not a surprise that he's deciding to forego his senior year and go in. He'll be coming in as, in my opinion, the top running back in the class. He's had another unbelievable year. I think this year alone he finished with over 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns, which I think hit the 20 is. I think he was tied top with 3 or 4 other people with the most touchdowns. And yeah, he's had a few injury issues this year. He's had a couple of games where he's had to leave, but he's not missed a great deal of time in his college career, which obviously his stats goes to show that. And again, another player who doesn't want to risk it in the final game and is going to be a high commodity in the draft class. I think it's him, and I'd say he's 1 or 2 at the moment in the running backs that are going to be in this draft class. So
yeah. I'm trying to think of the other guy from. Who else am I thinking of? Isaiah Spiller.
Isaiah, text saying a lot of people have him as the top guy, and just because of he's obviously got the all round ability. But I'd say that Breece Hall is right alongside him, if not above him, with the same similar skill sets. But Breece Hall's a wrecking ball when he gets moving as well.
Yeah, I think before we move on, Ash, I think we should touch on just how good Bailey Zapp was in his game for Western Kentucky. I mean, Joe Burrows a couple of seasons ago when he won the Heisman and sort of broke out for LSU, had 60 touchdowns, and then I think I messaged the group chat saying Bailey Zapp needs 3 touchdowns to equal second place, not thinking he'd get anywhere near Joe Burrow's 60. And then he throws. I can't remember many he threw on the day, but he ended up with 62 touchdowns on the year.
He threw 6 on in the bowl game against App State, and as you say, he ended up the out and out winner. I mean, out and out leader.
Yeah, he finished this season with 5,967 yards and 62 passing yards, passing touchdowns. Absolutely unbelievable game from Bailey Zapp, and just to break Joe Burrow's record is phenomenal.
And it's going to be living long in the memory as well, considering this is his last game. It's a bowl game. He'll be in the draft. He's a senior. So, as you say, it happened with Burrows last year across the year. And obviously, Zapp's gone under the radar playing for Western Kentucky. But this is going to do his draft stock a world of good. And if he goes to the combine, if he has a good combine, if he has a good pro day, I mean, there's someone to keep an eye out as a rising star in the draft class. I think he's probably going to surprise a few people with where he goes with the state of these quarterbacks in the draft class.
Yeah, and he also set the single season passing record for yardage, which was set in 2003 by Texas Tech's quarterback B.J. Simmons. So that's nearly 20 years old. 5,800 yards, and he goes and sets more, 5,900 odd. It's just, unbelievable from Bailey Zapp. So, well done, Bailey. I wanted to bring that to, just in case we missed it, Ash. I wanted to make sure that was mentioned. I know we're talking about draft declarees, but I've forgotten. We're going back to it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he is in the draft this year, so it kind of counts.
Well, we're now going to be talking about other underclassmen players who have also announced early draft entries for the 2022 draft. Our Kansas wide receiver Traylon Burks, huge talent. This kid, and it's not surprising to see Arkansas's Traylon Burks declare.
No, no, definitely not. I think everyone was expecting it. He came into the year as one of the top-rated wide receivers in this draft class, and has done nothing to sway that. This is a very good wide receiver draft class. There's a lot of guys who are being discussed as first or second round talents, and Burks is right up there with them. And we could be, because it's wide receiver. There's always that stigma of taking them in the first round, but I mean, to be honest, early doors, we'll get down to a few more names, and then there's a whole bunch of other guys as well that we're waiting to declare. We could see a handful of wide receivers go in the first round, and most definitely in the second round. And Burks is going to be right up there. This was his best year at Arkansas. He finished with 1,100 yards, I believe, and 11 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah, exceptional talent, and he's going to be a high commodity in the draft class. All of these guys are. There's a whole handful that we'll be speaking about, and most of these. The reason I've highlighted these ones, there's a bunch more of early underclassmen that have declared early, but these are the ones that are in round one consideration, if not some of them top 10, most definitely.
Yeah, somebody else who's declared, who perhaps we spoke about maybe not declaring, is Ole Miss's quarterback Matt Corral, and didn't. Obviously, it's understandable with him possibly being the number one quarterback in this draft class, but I thought he might see out that bowl game for Ole Miss. But he's getting ready for the draft. And another one of the quarterbacks, Ash, I'll just mention it, is Carson Strong from Nevada, your boy.
Yeah,
it's hugely high on him, and it's no surprise to see him forego their bowl game. And did Nevada make a bowl game?
Yeah, I do believe Nevada are in a bowl game. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fairly sure they are. They had a positive record. They must be. I can't remember off the top of my head which one they are in, but
yeah, there's only 65 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's 48 different bowl games. Can't remember them all, can we? But no, it's not surprising that he's also that he's declaring early with him and Corral with the way this quarterback draft class is. It's anybody's game who is the top guy. It depends on who you speak to. We'll give you a different name, and as I said last week, mine's changing on the daily. So yeah, it's not surprising at all.
No, Notre Dame safety Kyle Hamilton and running back Kyren Williams are both declaring for the draft. No surprise with Kyle Hamilton with his injury, just heading straight in and doing his draft prep, and then Kyren Williams again, running back. Don't play that last game if you don't need to.
No, exactly. Hamilton's top 5 guy at the moment on a lot of people's boards, and for me, he is as well. So no surprises here at all.
Yep. Moving on, we've got linebacker from Oklahoma, Nick Bonito, and then obviously Oregon's edge rusher, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Hugely, it just makes complete sense for Thibodeaux to declare for the draft, because he could go number one.
He could well go number one. He's in with a real shout of that. There's him and a couple of other guys, but I think Thibodeaux, it's his to lose. I think Hutchinson's given a good account of himself this year to try and push him for that number one, but I'd be very surprised if we don't hear his name called, Kayvon Thibodeaux, his name as the number one in April.
The only thing I've got about this is Oregon deja vu with Penei Sewell, because he was like the boxed in number one for the entire offseason last year, and then falls to Detroit. So when you get a good defensive end like we saw with Myles Garrett, the guy goes number one overall, and Kayvon Thibodeaux's got all of that game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him end up in. I can't tell you where he's going to go, because the NFL this year is completely messed up, and the number one pick isn't decided yet. So, yeah, madness. A couple of Purdue boys now. We've got wide receiver David Bell, who, if you are looking for a polished NFL receiver who you want to plug in week one to play some football, David Bell's your boy. And then edge rusher George Karlaftis as well. So he's another decent edge player, Ash, who's got some ability.
Yeah, I'd say Karlaftis is the third edge rusher in the draft class at the moment, behind Thibodeau and Hutchinson. So again, I thought he might have come out early, and he has done. So he's probably locked in as a first round pick.
We now have 3 Aggies. The Texas A&M boys are 1, 2, 3 on this list here in front of me. We've got defensive tackle DeMarvin Leal, running back Isaiah Spiller, as we mentioned, then tight end Jalen Weidemeyer. So is Weidemeyer any good, Ash?
Yeah, Weidemeyer is very good. He's probably one of the top tight ends, depending on what you want as well. This guy's more of an offensive piece and a passing weapon, but highly rated recruit coming into their Texas A&M. Had a solid career with them, and again, as I said, I think he's probably in with a shout of being the number 1 tight end when it comes to April. DeMarvin Leal is, in most people's books, a top 10 player for the draft and the best defensive tackle in the draft class. I think he's probably knocking on the door of a top 5 pick at the moment. And then obviously Isaiah Spiller, who we mentioned earlier, is one of, if not the top running back in the class. So 3 big players leaving A&M early.
Yeah. Moving on to, I've not obviously done my full list of wide receivers yet, but Drake London from USC. Yes, I might be slightly tainted because he was on my showdown team, but Drake London is one of the wide receivers in this draft class. Now, there's a few, both the Ohio boys, when they come out, they can do this. But Drake London can put a team on his back, and he can carry a game across the line of scrimmage. And if you want that from your wide receiver, which who doesn't want a wide receiver who can carry the team on their back? Drake London is that guy for me, and absolutely love this guy on film. It's just a real shame he got injured towards the end of the season.
Yeah, interesting that you say about your list. He is currently my top wide receiver. I've got him closely followed by the 2 Ohio State guys. If they both decide to come out, obviously Olave would definitely be coming out because he went back for his super senior year. Wilson is still up in the air. He is eligible, but it depends on whether he does come out or not, or if he goes back for his senior year. But yeah, I agree. London can put the team on his back, and he's shown that many times at USC, and he's going to be one of the top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver. I think he'll probably be the first one taken at the moment, depending on team needs, I suppose, because obviously, depending on who you look at, depending on what wide receivers they like.
Yeah, and I suppose it was only an ankle fracture, wasn't it? It wasn't a clean break. So
yeah,
I imagine that must have been like 6-7 weeks ago now, Ash, that happened. So
he's getting on now. Yeah, he's going to be fit for the off season and the build up to the draft. So.
Yeah, that's all he needs for that. I mean, I didn't want to say. I put a preliminary list together. I went on Pitsy and Rob. They have a little home league, which I'm in. I say a little home league. That's pretty disparaging. Their home league. I went on there as a guest, just as a member of. They talk about their home league on a little podcast. It is a little podcast. They do a small podcast on their home league, and I went on as a guest to talk about my matchup, how I did, and then they asked me for some college players, and I had Drake London as my number 1 receiver, but I didn't want to commit to that in case you were going to be abusive towards my list. But I'm pleased that you've got him number 1 as well, because that could be a spot, not spicy, but that I think if both Ohio boys do come out, just the pedigree we've seen from them will perhaps have people ahead of Drake London on their list. So maybe we can buck a little bit of a trend there, Ash. And then finally, we get to Mississippi State's offensive tackle, Charles Cross. I know nothing about this fella.
He's my number 2 tackle in the draft class. He's someone who's gone a bit under the radar. He's only played 2 seasons with Mississippi State, but because he was a freshman starter, and I think he finished he was in the SEC freshman team of the year, and I think he's had all SEC honors in both of his seasons with Mississippi State. He's going early, and I think he's going to be definitely a first round pick, and in my opinion, he's going to be the second tackle taken after Evan Neal from Alabama.
Marvelous, good to know. Okay, we've got some bowl game reviews, Ash. It's been quite a long time now since December the 17th and the first bowl
Yeah.
games happened. We had on December the 17th, we had the Cure Bowl. Northern Illinois lost 41-47 to Coastal Carolina in a game that was pretty good. I've seen some of the highlights from that. And then we also had the Bahamas Bowl, which we found out was in the Bahamas, and Middle Tennessee beat Toledo 31-24. Have you seen anything of those games, Ash, or is that too long ago now to really warrant?
No, I did see. I saw the Coastal one. I didn't see the Middle Tennessee Toledo, but I saw the Coastal one, and it was as good as you'd expect with these two teams who have had solid years respectively. I think Coastal were the. I think it was fair that they won the game. I think on the whole, they were the better team, and from that, Isaiah Likely has obviously played his last game. He's again another one of the top tight ends going into the class, but Grayson McCall's staying, which I found quite surprising. I thought he would declare early, but he's decided to stay another year, and he had a solid game. I think he finished over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Likely was just shy of 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's a real pass receiving tight end that's going to be a hot commodity in the NFL draft.
Yep. Moving on to the 18th of December, then we had New Mexico Bowl where UTEP played Fresno State. Fresno State came out 31-24 winners in that one. The Boca Raton Bowl, as we mentioned, Bailey Zapp put Western Kentucky on his back along with Mitchell Tinsley, and they beat App State 59-38. So if you took the over in that one, congratulations. We had the LA Bowl. Utah State beat Oregon State 24-13. The Aggies just demolished Oregon State in that game on both sides of the ball. I've seen a few of those highlights again. Shame you're not here, George, to talk about that one. And then we've got some review games. Actually, we've got the Lending Tree Bowl, Ash. Eastern Michigan lost to Liberty. Liberty won 56-20. So that was a very, very one-sided bowl game when you expect these things to be fairly close, like the Western Kentucky App State game. That one got out of hand in a hurry.
Yeah, just quickly on the Liberty one, Malik Willis signed off his career at Liberty with a bang and has done his draft stock a whole world of good just on that performance alone. He was on fire, and another name that we have to look out for in the draft. And as you said, Bailey Zapp, Western Kentucky. I had App State down to win that one, but yeah, Bailey Zapp and co really put it to App State on the day.
Yeah, my December the 18th lucky 15 was an absolute shambles. And then we got a couple of review games we're going to dive into a little bit here. We've got the Independence Bowl. UAB beat BYU in a shock 31-28 win, Ash.
Yeah, and I mean, it was all about the running backs in this game. Tyler Algier of BYU, just shy of 200 yards on the ground. I think it's with 192 off 27 carries and 3 touchdowns. And then Dwayne McBride from UAB, 183 yards and a touchdown. And then I think he also had a few yards in the air, so finishing over 200 yards himself. It was a very back and forth game. I watched the first half and the first quarter. UAB absolutely trounced BYU. They were at 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, and I thought that they were going to run away with it, rather surprisingly. But BYU came back, and I think they were only down. I think they were down a score. I think it was 21-14 at half time, and then a really close second half. But BYU just weren't able to get over the line, and UAB were able to do enough. I think, in fact, the final play, they went for it on 4th down and lost the ball and fumbled it. And it was recovered by UAB to win the game. I think there was still about three or so minutes left, but most of the time, if a team gets the ball back with 3.5 minutes and they're up by a score, they're not giving the ball away. And UAB did that. They kept all of the ball. They ran it down and walked away winners of the Independence Bowl. And it was a good game. I recommend watching the highlights if you get a chance to. Close game, hard fought on both sides, and it all being done on the ground. Really, I don't think either of the quarterbacks. I think Hopkins did have 3 touchdowns, but neither of the quarterbacks went over 200 yards passing. And I don't think Baylor Romney from BYU did a great deal at all. He didn't need to. Algier Algier did majority of it on the ground for him. He's going to be a good game. He's going to be a name to look out for next year. Obviously, he will be going back to school because he's still got another year of eligibility left. But expect to see his name a lot more next year.
Absolutely. And then in the New Orleans Bowl, we had the Raging Cajuns, Louisiana, beat Marshall 36-21. And a huge year for Louisiana.
Yeah, 13-1 they finished with, and a bowl victory. I will be honest, this game, I think the score is, I wouldn't say it's flattering. Marshall gave Louisiana an exceptional game right up until the final quarter. I think Louisiana put 20 on them in the final quarter. They were down 21 to 16 until the fourth quarter, and then Louisiana pumped it into gear and went away with it, and it looks a lot more flattering on the scoreline. But you've got to give credit to Marshall, more so again the running game for Marshall. Rasheen Ali, 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. Surprisingly, Marshall's quarterback Grant Wells, who again is another highly rated guy, got a couple of years of eligibility left. He had a terrible time against the Louisiana defense. Louisiana shut him down so much throughout the game that they put it on Rasheen Ali, who was able to, as I say, up to the fourth quarter, have these guys in the lead, and then Levy Lewis and co turned it on, and again another rushing game. Amani Bailey, 2 touchdowns, but I think on the face of it, Louisiana unsurprisingly won the game, but the actual game itself was a lot more close up until the fourth quarter. I think Marshall blew themselves out, unfortunately, and weren't able to see it through.
That's one I think I might go back and catch the highlights later on.
Yeah, exciting. It was an exciting fourth quarter. In particular, they Marshall just did all they could to hold on, but yeah, just too much in the final for them.
On the 20th of December, we had the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Tulsa beat Old Dominion 30-17, which was annoying because I had Old Dominion plus 10 in the start of these next 4 games were my next lucky 15. On the 21st of December, we had in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Kent State upset Wyoming 52-38. That was a big win for Kent State there, Ash. And then we do have a review game. San Diego State ran the ball very well against UTSA, and they came out 38-24 winners.
Yeah, San Diego offense was very good in this game. Lucas Johnson, the quarterback of San Diego, had a great game, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. As you say, they ran the ball well. Greg Bell, just over 100 yards and a score on the ground. But yeah, it was another weird game. Again, UTSA got out to a great start and were up at the end of the first quarter, 14-7, and then San Diego shut them down from there on. The third quarter, UTSA did put up 10. They had a touchdown and a field goal, but the second half was really all about San Diego. They managed the game well, and they put the ball in the end zone. And I think the interception I think it's towards the end of the third quarter. The UTSA intercepted. San Diego. Yeah, San Diego intercepted Frank Harris of UTSA, and I think really at that point the writing was on the wall. From there on out, they took all of the wind out of the sails of UTSA and just sort of put the game to bed there.
Fair enough. And then finally, I say finally, because we don't technically know the result of the game, the Gator Bowl on the 23rd of December yet. The Armed Forces Bowl was on December the 22nd. Army managed to get a win against Missouri, 24-22. There was quite a few players for Missouri missing in this one, Ash. Although you'd expect perhaps the SEC team to get the win over the option, one of the service academies who all run the option. But Missouri's run defense was appalling all year long. And as we can imagine, Army ran the ball on Missouri and managed to get the 2-point win, which is a big win for the Service Academy against an SEC team, regardless of who was playing or not.
Yeah, it was the shot result, definitely a shot result, despite, as you say, Missouri missing players, and the way Army won it with a field goal as time expired was apparent for the game. I think the Army had their third string quarterback event because Christian Anderson, who I think is their second string, went down injured, and Jabri Lewis, I think is the lad's name. He had to come in. He didn't. I mean, to be fair, none of the passers of Army really did anything in the game. But yeah, Jabri Laws, sorry, not Lewis. Jabri Laws came in, and yeah, they had their third string quarterback in in there, but they won it on the field goal, and on the day that it was definitely a deserved victory, despite who Missouri were missing. I think in particular they missed Taylor Baddy, the running back for them, who is there. He's been their main weapon all year. Without him, they really struggled.
I had
really
a
struggled.
stat today that after Taylor Baddy, obviously their quarterback who didn't play because he's declared for the draft,
Connor Baslick, I think. Yeah, I think
Connor
is his name.
Basic, yeah, he didn't play because he was second on the team in rushing attempts. But after Taylor Baddy, the next guy who had the next person on the rushing attempts list had 24 rushes, which is like 200 less than Baddy had throughout the season.
It's crazy.
So yeah, he's a
Yeah,
workhorse. He can do everything, and
he was.
he could be a bit of a steal.
I would say so. Yeah, the game runs through him at Missouri. No pun intended. But yeah, it's all about him. And to be honest, this game, Missouri lost this game themselves in the second half. In particular, I think they were stopped on downs one couple of times. I think once or twice, and they also fumbled the ball in Army's half. And yeah, they were disappointing despite who they were missing in the second half. But you can't take anything away from Army in the game on the day. I think standout player for me on the defensive side of the ball, and probably was one of the main reasons that the Army won this game, was their linebacker Eric Smith. He's a senior, so he'll be leaving this year. Don't expect to see him in the draft. If you do, it's going to be late. But he had a great game. He finished with 12 tackles, 2.5 of those were for a loss, and he also had 2 sacks. He caused Missouri's offense all sorts of issues throughout the whole game, and kept Army in it. And then, as I say, they won it as time expired with a field goal. It wasn't the most exciting game to watch, but just the ending and the fact that Army, as you say, the underdogs of this game managed to get the victory is something in itself to go and watch if you get a chance to.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Missouri were plus 4.5 at kickoff
Yeah.
in Vegas shows you that the players missing and stuff gave Army a chance in that one. Sorry, but yeah,
Army celebrated like they won as time expired as well. They were buzzing with this victory.
it's a big win for them in a bowl game.
Yeah,
Big
definitely.
win.
Yeah.
That, Ash, brings us to the end of the show, Doc. Is there anything else you would like to talk today? Obviously, we've shorter than normal, but it is Christmas Eve.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, it's obviously, we've still got a load of bowl games to go. It's let's just say almost daily from here on out, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to I'm looking forward to the playoffs, but the way the America's going at the moment with the COVID, they've already got plans in place as to if any of the games are postponed, or well, they won't be postponed. There isn't enough time to postpone them. So if a team pulls out, the other team advances to the finals. If both teams pull out, it's a no contest, and the other fixture decides it. If all 3 teams and only 1 team is remaining, there will be declared the champions. There won't be. They're not scrapping it off completely unless all 4 teams can't compete. Then they will. There'll be no winner this year. I'll be very surprised if that happens. But I would hate to see 3 out of the 4 teams not be able to fulfill their semi-final when someone wins it like that, unless it's Cincinnati.
It would be the most Cincinnati thing.
It really would. Could you imagine the way they finally got to the playoffs, the first non-Power 5 team to do it, and for that to happen will just be typical. It will tarnish them, their national championship. But let's hope it doesn't come to that, and I don't think it will. But
no, I don't think I think the programs, although we are seeing it left, right, and centre with just general life, I think these programs are going to be so well insulated
Yeah.
and protected for this exact occasion. That fingers crossed, knock on wood, that we get to see all 4 teams compete in their playoffs. But that's after Christmas and the mince pies have been smashed down. And
Yeah,
stuff.
well, yeah. After Christmas is when the big games start to happen. Obviously, tonight, as you saw, tonight when we're recording, yesterday for the listeners, we've got the Gasparilla Bowl, which is Florida UCF, and then up until sort of the 27th, 28th is when we start seeing more of the bigger teams coming in, more of the ranked teams, and then it starts to get really exciting from there on out.
Yeah, Jack's got a Big Ten bowl game review preview. Sorry, coming up on the site. It would probably be there by the time you listen. If not, it will be very, very close. Rush Nation. Ash, this has been fun, mate. I'm pleased you're out of isolation in time for Christmas. I hope you have a fantastic couple of days doing whatever it is you're doing. But I imagine we'll be back on Wednesday, right? There's nothing going to stop us from the midweek madness.
We will be here on Wednesday, most definitely, and more bowl games to review, and a lot more news, I'm sure.
Yeah, I imagine the news is going to start coming thick and fast now as we get towards the bowl season proper. Ash, Merry Christmas, my friend. I hope you have a really good one.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to all of our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sticking with us this season. I say this season, this year, I suppose, although we're going to do another one before the end of the year, so I don't know what I'm saying. But Merry Christmas, Rush Nation. It's been an absolute honour to host these shows with Ash. Everybody stay safe over the holidays period. Enjoy yourselves. Don't worry about what you eat and drink because, as we all know, this time is precious. So just enjoy yourselves. Take care of everybody. Take care of your families. Ash, you enjoy going to your grandma's house and then board games. I hope it's a good board game that you are going to be playing, or several. I expect to hear all about it. Rush Nation, that leaves me with one thing to say, or two things really. Merry Christmas, and don't forget, Saturdays are